morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world right now. And welcome to this RightCrowd webinar. My name is Bart Vansevenant. I'm responsible for the presence control and cybersecurity solutions at RightCrowd. The topic of today's webinar is visitor management, and more specifically, the visitor management experience. Let's dive right into it. Pretty much every organization in the world is welcoming visitors on a daily basis. And if you look at what a visit is all about, it is a chance for the organization to establish a relationship. You have business partners that come down to your premises. You have people that come to apply for a job. You have contractors, you have auditors or other regulatory professionals, a lot of people that come to your organization. And such visits truly is an opportunity to welcome these people to the organization and make a first impression, shape an impression of your organization. At the same time, individuals that enter your facility also come with a risk. You want and you need to know who those people are. You want to do authentication and authorization. Do they have a good reason to be on site? Who are they going to see, and where do they need to go on those premises? So for all of these reasons, people have started to use visitor management solutions. And if you look at what is being used in terms of visitor management, we see a broad variety of solutions out in the market today. Sometimes, and I would say unfortunately, we still see those very manual ways to register visitors using record books. We have a picture on the slide here of such example, which is, to be honest, a very bad practice, because in a lot of cases you can still see the visitors that registered prior to yourself, which from a GDPR and overall privacy perspective comes with quite a few issues. So more and more organizations have or are switching to what is called digital visitor management systems. Systems whereby either a receptionist will register the visitor on a computer system, or whereby the visitor is using some sort of a self-service mechanism, uses a kiosk, or uses a tablet to do the registration. So that way you at least have that digital trace of the registration, someone that entered and someone that has a good reason to be there. But still, even in those cases, there is no visibility beyond that registration point. So you know who just entered, but then once they start their visits, they wander off with the host, you lose all of the visibility. So for those reasons, if you look at the solutions that exist there, for those reasons, we think that there's an opportunity to make that visitor management experience better. And a comparison I would like to make is with the space of the business to consumer world. If you look at how visitors are welcomed in a lot of those organizations, there's the concept of hospitality, whereby people are really welcomed as guests. A lot of attention goes to the experience that those people go through. And we think there's a lot to be learned from that perspective in the business to business space. So that's one important reason we believe to look at alternative ways to welcome visitors. And one of those alternatives is what we'll be presenting on the next couple of slides here. Secondly, we also believe that a good visitor management experience will help to demonstrate that your organization is taking security seriously. And why does that matter? If you take security seriously, that will establish some level of trust with the visitor, and trust, whether you like it or not, is an important aspect in doing business. So there's the visitor experience, there's the fact that you can establish a level of trust by showing that you take security seriously. And then last but not least, in a lot of vertical markets and more, we see industry mandates that really require you to show a form of due diligence when it comes to visitors. I will give one example. In the utilities vertical in North America, there are very strict requirements that have been documented as part of the NERC-FERC requirements that literally state how you need to register a visitor, what you need to do throughout the visit, up until requirements where it's really about keeping a line of sight between the host and the visitor throughout the entire visit. And that's just one example. There's more and more of those that we see popping up. So overall, there's that expression saying you never get a second chance to make a first impression. We believe that that applies to visitor management as well. So for those reasons, we want to offer you an alternative here to make that entire experience better. So let's have a look at that. We refer to this as RightCrowd presence control for visitors. And what we'll do in the next couple of minutes is walk through what that solution is all about, why and how that is different from what you may be using today, and then go through how it works and a couple of the benefits that this solution offers. So starting with a quick overview, what the solution is all about. It is what we refer to as a digital badge holder, as you can see on the picture here. It seems like a piece of plastic. It's actually a digital device in which we insert a visitor badge. That visitor badge can be branded. It can have a number, whatever you want that badge to show towards your visitors. And what that badge does is a couple of things. First of all, it will provide what we call a visual verification of an authorized visit. Now, what does that mean? If you start your visit, a visitor wears this digital badge holder, that badge holder will show a color. You see the LED strip at the bottom of the device. That color will be visible to everyone around that visitor, and that is a visual checkpoint that visitor correctly registered, checked in at the reception desk, and so has a good reason to be on site at that point. So that's a first piece of functionality of that digital badge holder. The second thing that this badge holder will enable is the true enforcement of what we call a host visitor escort policy. A lot of organizations have such policies that say a visitor cannot walk around on the premise on their own. They always need to be accompanied by the host. It's a nice policy, but how do you enforce it? How do you make sure that that truly happens? And with this digital badge holder, you can do that. And we'll talk about how exactly that happens in a couple of minutes. And then thirdly, and that is optional, this digital badge holder can also allow you to keep track of where visitors go throughout their visits. And that's what we really refer to as presence control. And again, we'll explain how that works and also how we have implemented it in a way that it takes into account privacy restraints that you may be confronted with. And the solution, as we will walk through it, you will learn that it can integrate with pretty much any open visitor management system that is out there in the market. Now, before we go into the functionality itself, I do want to explain a little bit more why we refer to this as a presence control solution. It is called RightCrowd Presence Control for Visitors. So what exactly do we mean by that? Because the concept may be new to some of you. If you compare what this presence control concept is about in comparison with things that already exist and that you may be familiar with, I think you all know what perimeter control is about. It's the physical barriers that protect the facilities on the outside. Think of gates, think of security guards that sort of verify who enters the perimeter, the outside perimeter of the organization. So that's typically one layer of physical security. Then a second layer that most of you will have implemented is what we know as access control. And what access control is really all about is just a point-in-time decision, a yes or a no, a grant or a deny. Are you allowed to pass this specific point, which in most cases is a turnstile or a door. So it's a point-in-time decision. Yes, you can go here or you cannot. If you compare this to presence control is really an additional layer of security that adds to perimeter control and access control. And what presence control does that those two others cannot do is a continuous validation that the person is authorized to be there. So not just point in time, we'll in a continuous way validate whether or not that person is allowed to be there, and not just at the perimeter at a specific point like a door or a turnstile, but more on an ongoing basis, zone by zone. So a continuous way of validating that everyone on site is right.